You're here because you are going through the licensing course, 60 hours to become a salesperson, or the broker course, 135 hours, or better yet, you're getting ready to pass that state real estate exam through PSI. Another great candidate for this video would be someone who's already licensed in another state and now you want to add Maryland to that list. Here's going to be a review of what you need to know about transfer charges in Maryland. My name is Brenda Kasuva. The topic is transfer charges in Maryland. When someone is purchasing a home, the government is going to want a piece of that pie. And so we're going to go through just what is special in Maryland. I'd love to hear how it works out in other states. Put it in the comments. When you purchase that property, you're going to get a breakdown of all the costs at settlement. In our state of Maryland, the government property transfer charges or taxes are three: recordation taxes, state transfer taxes, and local transfer taxes. These three are charged by the government. We start with recordation tax. That is just showing that now you own the property, and that's where they're recording the deed that was signed by the seller. That's the recordation tax. All of these three are going to be divided evenly. All three: the recordation tax, the state transfer tax, and the local county jurisdictional transfer tax, all three are split evenly between the buyer and the seller unless negotiated differently, and that needs to be in writing. How that might happen is the buyer happens to have extra funds available, and so they're going to contribute that, cover the seller's cost. Sometimes this is done when we have multiple offers and you want to stand out. This is something potentially you, as a real estate agent, are going to be helping that future buyer. Let's talk about the state transfer tax. The amount is 0.5% of the property purchase price. That means if you're buying the property for 100,000, you're going to be charged 0.5% of that in this transaction. That is going to be split evenly between the buyer and the seller. There is a benefit to you being a first-time home buyer in our state of Maryland. The way this is defined in terms of a first-time home buyer in our state of Maryland is two ways. One, you've never bought a house before in the state of Maryland. You could have owned a property in Texas. You could even own multiple properties, different parts of the country. But if this is the first time that you're purchasing in Maryland, you're going to get this particular benefit. The other way is you've never bought a house before anywhere, and therefore you're going to get this particular benefit. The benefit that you're getting as a welcome offered by the state of Maryland is that they're going to pay the buyer's share of the state transfer tax. If we're using 100,000 as a sales price, $500 is the state transfer tax. Seller will still pay their share, which is 0.25%. If I'm using math, that 500 is going to be divided into two. Seller will pay their share, buyer will not pay their share. State of Maryland is covering that on behalf of the buyer. Don't celebrate, because you do need to keep in mind that person who is a first-time home buyer in Maryland but owns property elsewhere. When you're selling it, since you are not a resident of Maryland, there's going to be withholding tax. The title company and you, as a future real estate agent, are going to be educating that person of that cost. The seller, once again, is responsible for paying their share when we have a first time home buyer who's never owned a house anywhere in the country or the world. And then they are also qualified for this benefit or discount if they've never owned a property in Maryland. The state covers that. Seller still is responsible for their share. Remember, there are 3 taxes. We talked about the state transfer tax. Now we're talking about the other 2, the recordation and local county taxes. These 2, whether you're a first-time home buyer or not, are still going to be divided equally between the buyer and the seller, unless, once again, the buyer wants to cover that cost for the seller. An example presented, thanks to Capital Title. Here's where you're seeing a glimpse of the different jurisdictions in our state. The 24 including Baltimore City. There's going to also be another discount if the person is going to be residing in the property as their principal residence. And so just looking at these 3 columns or 4, you're seeing on the extreme right, state transfer tax is 0.5%. The county or jurisdiction transfer tax is going to look different across the 24 jurisdictions. But what stands out as an example is Calvert County and Carroll County don't have a county transfer tax. So if you're buying in that particular area, that's one of the benefits. The recordation taxes are going to also look different across the different jurisdictions in our state. Bottom line, these are going to be split evenly. Let's review. The key takeaways to this conversation when you're looking to pass the real estate exam and then use this knowledge when you are the real estate agent is that there's going to be property government transfer charges. There are going to be 3 of them: recordation taxes, transfer tax from the state, and local jurisdiction transfer taxes. Those are split evenly unless negotiated differently. That arrangement needs to be in writing. First-time home buyers in Maryland get the benefit where the state is going to cover their share of the state transfer tax, which divide evenly. Seller will be responsible for their 0.25%. Buyer will not if they are a first-time home buyer. You are welcome to check out trainingwithbrenda.com/exam prep or click on the menu option there. What we offer are coaching or tutor sessions separated on the topic of Maryland, national if you need that, whether you're taking the salesperson or the broker exam, or 3 hours, you're able to check out when we are available. Additional resources to help you on especially the Maryland real estate exam is a print version of our workbook or study guide, which you can get as an e-book. Everything is available on your device. We have 2 versions, different questions, 30 questions on the Maryland real estate law. And then you can access the breakdown of the questions and anything else there. Check out trainingwithbrenda.com. Where do you find this content as you're going through the exam? The Maryland part of the exam has 30 questions for the salesperson, 5 questions on the topic of supervision. The broker has 40 questions, 6 questions are going to be tied in the topic of supervision. That topic of supervision is going to ask questions on handling trust money, which is deposit, you keeping a record of everything to do with the transaction. What are the responsibilities of your supervisor, whether that's your broker, manager, or team leader? And what we just covered is that part titled Knowledge of Other Maryland State Laws. This is one of them that you need to pay attention to.